Hello, and welcome to episode 2 of Game Surgeons Podcast, a podcast series where we dissect video game mechanics and the ways they interact and intersect with both each other and with the narrative being told. Hey, my name is Kyle. I'm here with
Shane. Hello.
Hello. And what have we been playing this week?
This week I have been the lucky recipient of a new Xbox Series S. So I've been diving straight into the Game Pass.
And very deep in the library yet?
This is like literally the second day. So not so much, but I am very excited to do lots of deep dives into the indie games in particular.
And thank you for that bonus Game Pass with PC. I really appreciate it.
Oh yeah, so it's just my account when I come to your place, right?
Yeah. That's how it works. Yeah,
that's how it is.
Yeah.
How about you? What have you been playing?
So Halo dropped for free this week unexpectedly, so I've been diving into the multiplayer on that one, and also the Pokemon remake of Diamond and Pearl dropped this week, so I jumped into those as well. And none of the games that we've mentioned so far are our game that we're talking about for this week.
No, they're not. However, they may be future ones. That Pokemon.
Yes.
That Pokemon.
Oh my gosh, I so want to talk about Pokemon. I have so many emotions about that.
Positive, negative?
Look, very little of it has to do with actual Pokemon.
Okay.
Yeah.
That'll be interesting. Look forward to that one, friends.
Yeah, it's a good discussion for a later time, I think. But today, what we are talking about is The Witness.
I love The Witness.
Yes, you have been very vocal with me in the past about your love for this game.
Oh, absolutely.
It was a game released on PC and PS4 in January 2016 and later made its way to other platforms, including Xbox and iOS. Only a small team. Directed by Jonathan Blow, who is best known for the indie classic Braid, which, if any of you listening don't know, spoiler alert, because it is a very old game at this point, and if you haven't played it, this is going to tell you to play it rather than stop you from doing that, is one with a very, very good twist at the end. Jonathan Blow brings his expertise to The Witness, which is a first-person puzzle game where you literally just find yourself on an island walking around.
Yeah, it's kind of hard to explain what the story is. Like, even if you know the story, it's kind of hard to explain what the story is.
Wait, there's a story?
Yeah, that's exactly it.
So when I say you find yourself on an island just walking around, that may conjure to mind for people walking simulator type games, something like Gone Home or... Oh gosh, everybody's gone to the Rapture, I guess.
Yeah, What Remains of Edith Finch, that sort of stuff.
Yeah, those sorts of things. It's definitely not those types of games, though. It shares a bit of genetics with them. There's some DNA in there, but it is very much a puzzle game, and it wears that on its sleeve more than most puzzle games would admit, I think.
Yeah, definitely. Like, when you play it, you might get some, just with the world design, you might get some vibes of like the old Myst series, but the actual gameplay loop is very, very different.
Have you played Myst?
Like back when it came out in 1990, whatever it was, but I didn't play it much.
Okay, cool. I remember thinking it looked awesome and then finding out that it was on PC only and going, oh no. I'm not going to play that.
Yeah, I love the art direction of Myst. I don't know if it's intentional, but I feel like The Witness really conjures up a lot of some of that geometry and that kind of feel of mystique, and it kind of draws you in. You kind of think, what is around the corner? What is happening here?
Yeah, we've discussed this before last week with Ghost of Tsushima, but I did find myself thinking that this island that you're put on is very purpose-built to have something to pique your interest no matter where you're standing, the same way that Tsushima is, but probably not as successfully as this is, and that Breath of the Wild from Nintendo is as well. So despite the huge genre change between here, like the fact that the environments are so similarly built is something that's actually quite interesting to note.
Yeah, definitely. And I think that in both cases, like Ghost of Tsushima is such a wide, spread out, open world. And the Witness is a far more condensed, still open world, but not in like a sandbox traditional sense. Like you can kind of journey in all different directions, but we'll talk about that aspect a little later on. So what was your experience with The Witness? How far did you get into this game?
Okay, so I originally played this, I think 2016 or 2017. Definitely not when it first released, but I think when it first came on special. I finished the game at that point, not 100%, just to the classic ending, if you could call it that. So all of the points of light converge on the one space that becomes your final puzzle dungeon for you to go through. And I finished that with a little bit of help from the internet. Thank you, internet. Because
some of the very last puzzles are, they're a head scratcher.
Yeah, oh man. Some of the early ones. I started replaying this morning as well, just to recap myself on everything in preparation for tonight. I do not remember half of the rules for this game.
It takes a little while. Even like, the basic way that the game works. I could remember like some rules, but even like the fundamental, like what this game is about, I was struggling with. Shall we get dissecting?
Yeah, absolutely. And I'll let you start off. You being so very familiar with this game, how far did you get into it? Because we didn't actually discuss that.
Yeah, so similar. Like I lit all of the beacons. I like finished the main part, but I did not do like 100% because some of the optional puzzles are like insane. I remember Jonathan Blow saying that looking at some of the data, less than 1% of the audience that was playing the game was able to overcome this one specific puzzle that was just so difficult. Less than 1%, which is just like, whew.
I mean, like, I don't have data for how big the audience was for this game, I guess. Like, that's relative. Less than 1%, if only 100 people played it, which clearly they didn't. We're discussing it right now. But that's only one person if 100 people played it. So... it's still kind of hard to tell, but it was some of the puzzles, they were too tough for me. Understandable. I again played this morning and just struggled. Like I started over again because I downloaded it to my PS5, not where my save file was before, and just decided I'm going to start over because I'm not going to have any idea if I just continue on from where I was. And my gosh, the brain that came up with these. I know. Like it's ingenious. Like the pacing, the flow, the way that it messes with your expectations. There'll be cases where you'll complete one puzzle, you'll have almost the identical puzzle next to it, but the way that you did it, that they will know the most common way that people will attempt the puzzle. And they make a tiny little alteration so you can't complete it again that way, and you're just like, but that's impossible. The amount of times I was like, but that's impossible. I was just like, there's literally no way that you can do this. Very much the same. And once you figure it out, you're just like, oh, I am somewhere between an idiot and a genius. And that's the genius, I suppose, of this type of game, is that it can make you feel that way, that you are both somehow the dumbest person you know and also the only person you know who could complete this. Like, I don't understand how they do it, and it is something that I am desperate to like learn myself, to like learn how to make these puzzles, because as we mentioned last time, part of the reason I'm doing this, I want to make a game. I want to make a JRPG style game, but more in the vein, and this is something that we didn't bring up last time, of Golden Sun. And I know you've played that game before. You actually introduced me to that game. The main reason I love that game is because of the puzzles. And how on earth do you come up with these? Like, do the mechanics come first? Do you think of the cool abilities and then work puzzles from there? Or do you think of puzzles and then go, well, we're going to need these abilities to do them? That obviously only applies to Golden Sun because you only have one ability in the witness. And
Yeah.
do you want to tell me what that is?
Like there's literally one input, and this is why I think that the witness is.
There's two inputs.
There's two inputs.
There's two inputs.
Okay. Well, I'm gonna say the obvious input is like a big like interacting with things, and when I say interacting with things, it's pretty much beginning one of the puzzles.
Yeah.
So for those that haven't seen it, they might be like picturing like an old school adventure game, but it's not like that at all.
No,
it's
you have free roam, right? Like old school adventure games are mostly point and click.
This isn't about collecting items. This is literally they'll give you a puzzle in the literal sense, how there's like a small puzzle. Like there's a start point and there's an end point, and that's all it is. You click on it and you start guiding your little line to the end, and if you get to the end, and with whatever rules they add onto it, if you get to the end, it'll activate something or open something.
And these puzzles mostly resemble a maze.
Yeah.
For the most part, they're on a board. The start point is represented by a circle. The end point, of which there can be multiple sometimes.
There's a few different start points. You have to choose which is the best one.
And the end point is represented by, I guess, like a tail on the end of one part of the board.
Yeah, so this game is literally just completing a bunch of really small mazes. And they're small. They're like quite small. But
like usually a 5x5 grid, I think.
Yeah, like literally the first few, you can finish them in like 3 seconds. Like they're very easy. But
I think there is one that is literally just a line.
You just a line to activate it.
Yeah.
But the thing is, they will take this concept, and this is literally all you do in the game. It's just about the mazes. But they will stretch it as far as they can. And I think this is what makes The Witness so brilliant, because they will take this concept and, you know, you'll be going through doing your mazes, but then they'll introduce a new mechanic where there'll be little black dots, and you have to collect the black dots throughout the maze. And the kicker is you can't go back and overlap yourself.
No.
So if you run into a path that you've already taken,
you can't even cross over yourself.
You can't cross over yourself. Yeah. So you'll find yourself like you'll block yourself in all the time. And that's the moment where it's just like this maze is literally impossible.
Yep.
But then you'll figure it out and you'll be like, this is amazing. But yeah, so they'll do simple stuff like the dots, or there'll be ones where they'll give you there's some black dots over here and some white dots over here, and you have to divide them. Or there will be like different colors that you have to divide, like groups of colors. There'll be like different Tetris shapes you have to draw. It like it starts building on itself so much.
Those Tetris shape ones still confuse me.
Those ones that murdered me.
Yeah, like I know what the rules are for it. I know in my head exactly what I am not allowed to do and what I am allowed to do, and I still have no idea how to do them most of the time. In fact, the one that I actually managed to complete today when I was doing it, I could only complete because there was a physical representation of the puzzle in front of me, and I knew what I wanted to get to, because completing the puzzle moved that physical representation, and I was like, okay, well, excellent. Now I can actually complete this because I know what it needs to look like for me to get to my next objective. Yeah. Rather than this completes the puzzle. Yeah. And actually that's something that's probably a good thing to bring up now. These puzzles are able to manipulate the environment and also are manipulated by the environment.
Yes, and these are my favorite parts of the game, to be honest. Yeah. When it comes to just the pure puzzle stuff, this is my favorite. So an easy example is that you'll have a puzzle that will a maze that will look like a bit of a tree. Like you'll be at the base of the tree, and there's like a few roots that go up in branches, and they're all exits, but you're like, oh, which is the one that I'm meant to take? Because if you take the wrong exit, it'll just say like, no, you didn't complete the puzzle. And you're like, what do you want from me? But then you'll realize that there's a physical tree in front of you,
like literally
in front of you, and there's a single red apple on one of the branches.
And there's only one tree with the apple,
and you need to you create that correlation between the two, and you say, oh, this maze is tied to that tree. So you start at the bottom and you go up and you follow the path that will take you to the apple, and that's the solution. Yep. Just things like that. It's just so smart.
One of my favorite ones from really early in the game, and early is relative because you can literally do the game.
It's quite open.
Yeah, like whatever order that your mind can actually come together to finish things is the order that you can do the game in.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter.
And something I love actually on that is that you can be partway through one section
and just drop it,
because the island is like quite clearly divided into like a desert section, a forest section, and, you know. And then you can be like, I've just hit a wall, I just need a break. You can just walk away and go do like another section, and then come back and your progress is still there. Hitting
that wall is rough though.
It is common.
Oh my gosh. But yes, one of my favorite ones from earlier today was the puzzle board is translucent. It's in front of you, and in the distance you can see pillars in the background, and the game does not tell you at all what it is, but you just kind of know.
Yeah, you just kind of feel it. It's almost like a subconscious thing.
Yeah. And so in this instance, it was, your line has to go around the pillars that are on the other side of the board. And that's the reason why the board is translucent, so you can see around and
see through it. Yeah,
and line up those pillars so that you're not crossing over the wrong paths. And it does this a couple of times, but it always changes it just between.
Yeah.
So when I did this puzzle, it connected to another board, like it activates and connects another board.
Yeah, it made it very clear what your next board was.
Yep. So you go to the next board, and there's another set of pillars behind this background, and then you try that, and that doesn't work.
Yep. And you're like, what did I do wrong? The game's wrong.
Yeah, I've clearly done this right. There is no way that I have screwed this up. And then you readjust a little bit, move your camera slightly, and look at the board again, and it's actually a different set of pillars.
Yeah. And it's so smart because the way that the game leads you, you're going to see that first set of pillars, and you just assume, right?
Yeah, like you can't be wrong. The game has to be wrong.
Like it's so, and this is what the Witness does so damn well. Like it'll build off your expectations. So you think, oh yeah, I've figured out like the gimmick, and then immediately you're just like, wait, maybe I haven't figured out the gimmick. And it is something as simple as you literally just need to take a slight step to the right.
Yep.
And then try again, and you're like, oh, it's right there. How did I not see that?
So that same series of puzzles, I only remember this so clearly because it was this morning. I got to the last puzzle in that series and couldn't figure it out for such a long time, right? I tried looking at different angles, did everything that I thought I could to do this one puzzle, and eventually just happened upon it. I, at the time, was just using the logic of, okay, well, I can't line up these pillars, but these pillars match the heights of the row, so I'm just going to do that. And it worked, and I was like, okay, well, that's very abstract and obscure. It's uncommon for the Witness to do something like that. It turns out it didn't. I was just very lucky because when I went around to the other side of the board...
That's right. You literally have to see it
from the other side of the board.
Yep.
And it lines up with trees on the other beach.
Yep.
Spot on perfectly.
Yep.
And I was just like, I don't think I would have gotten that. Like, obviously I did get it, but entirely by coincidence.
You can brute force a few of these, but once you actually realize what the solution is, you're like, oh, damn, that makes sense.
I hated myself in that moment.
I actually love that one because I was stuck on that for so long. But you literally just go on the opposite side of the board.
Yeah.
Again, it's about perspective.
Yep.
And then you can just see it. The answer is in front of your face so often.
Literally all the time.
Yep.
There is not a single time where the answer is inaccessible to you.
Yeah.
It might require like a little bit of prior knowledge, but that prior knowledge is delivered to you via another puzzle somewhere else.
It's really smart how the game teaches you.
Yes, everything is so connected on this island, and I don't mean that in a typical game systems way that I would normally. I mean that specifically in the way that you will complete the same puzzle type over and over and over again and learn a new thing about how that type of puzzle is completed every single time.
Yep.
No matter what. It is just mind-blowing. You've put like quite a bit of time into this game. Did you ever look up how many puzzles there actually are?
Oh, I did in the research for this. I think it was like 600 and something, 640 or something.
That is absolutely insane.
And there's a lot, and so few are just throwaway. Like almost everything is meaningful. Almost every puzzle of this, like whatever the number is, it like teaches you something and it builds on itself. And it's just taking this very core concept. You're just finishing mazes. That's literally all you do in this game. Finishing mazes, and it just keeps building and building and building, and just takes you in such creative ways you don't expect.
Like, just genuinely insane ways. I got through 3 areas this morning when I was playing. I lit 3 of the beacons to head towards the thing. How many are there? 8? Something like that?
Yeah, I think it's a couple more than that. And you don't need all of them to access the final area.
Oh, really?
Yeah, you don't. Which I thought was actually quite cool because, again, it's an open world game.
Yeah. I mean, that would explain why I had no idea about some of the puzzles in the final dungeon.
That might be why, because that final area, like, it does kind of culminate with like all of the things that you've learned, and then they throw in a few extra gimmicks in there. Some of them not so good. Actually, I wouldn't mind talking about some of the gimmicks that aren't so good. So you and I came to a bit of a disagreement with this one, but one of my least favorite gimmicks is there's this desert area, and what you have to do is, because it's in the desert, you've got the bright sun, you actually look at the puzzle board from an angle and you can see the solution scratched in.
Yes, as though someone's been rubbing their finger on it repeatedly, as though you're not the first person on this island.
Which I really like. There's this sense of intrigue on this island.
Yes.
But I didn't care for that section. That was probably my least favorite of the environmental gimmicks. And they just, unfortunately for me, that whole section was just based on that.
Yeah.
But you said you quite enjoyed that one.
I did actually quite enjoy that one, mainly because I felt smart in that area. Possibly because it required the least of me. All you have to do is walk past the right puzzle in the right angle and go, oh, I get it. And you get the rest of the area now. Except you don't, because it does expand on that some more.
It does.
And the expansion I did particularly like, but also was very finicky and nearly had me like beating my head against a wall this afternoon. So in this desert area, the first few boards that you come across are quite simple. You literally just position yourself in such a way that the sun is reflecting off of it and you can see the scratched out pathway that you're meant to take in this maze.
And it's literally the answer. Like the answer is literally right there.
Like literally right there. But the purpose of that is just to teach you need to use light.
Yep.
Now we're going to screw with you.
Yeah, because some sections are in shadow. Yes. Or half of it is in shadow.
Or half in shadow. And the next step of that, and I think I think I'm going to describe steps in this, so spoilers again for a 5-year-old game, I'm sorry. The next step in that is to move the boards via some other mechanical switches so that you can see the sunlight in them, because they were half in shadow before. And they may still be half in shadow, but it's the other half now. And so you have to either remember or draw or write down or something what the solution was so that you can actually do it on the board. And again, relatively simple, all things
you figure out what you have to do, and
exactly.
Then you're like, okay, I just need to pull this together. And also, as a quick aside, I love games where you pull out a physical notepad and start writing things down. Big fan of those.
I think the first time I played this game, I downloaded an app that let me have like a little pixel art board that I could draw on.
That's perfect.
Yes, yeah. And obviously, I didn't want it for pixel art itself. Yeah. What I actually wanted was just to screw around on a 25 by 25 board and hope that I could brute force some solutions while I was there. And it worked quite well. I mean, I got to the end of the game, right?
Yep.
But I did not do that this time because I didn't want to download an app for a day.
Yeah. You just wanted to get through.
I just wanted to get through. And can I just say, thank you, Sony. Thank you so much for having a screenshot button.
Oh, yes.
And then a quick access menu for those screenshots.
Yes, very helpful.
The PS5, look, there are a lot of issues with it. There are a lot of issues with getting stock of it for this generation. There's a lot of issues with exclusivity, I should say. There are a lot of issues with lack of content on these devices, as some would see it. But goddamn, they made the OS right. I'm so very grateful, because I forgot about it for most of my time playing the game this morning and this afternoon, and then remembered it for one of these puzzles, and suddenly everything was so much easier. So much easier.
They broke the game and they didn't even know.
Exactly. So yes, after you've done that, you get to go into an underground area, and there's less light underground. Usually only one light source, if any, and then you have to activate different switches to turn on different lights to see parts of these boards.
Again, it's parts
of the
bits
boards.
and pieces.
And some would say genius. I will say frustrating, and I still loved this section, but I hated it too so much. So much. It's clever but I hate having to remember things and also having nothing to write things down on. So this is where the screenshots were.
The screenshots would have been very helpful.
Just beautiful. And then after you finish that one, you go down further, and then it's reflections. And so the light no longer shows you where the scratches are on the board. The light reflected in pools of water underneath shows you where the scratches are on the board. And so the board is actually flipped upside down.
That's right.
Yes.
Because it's you assume, you're like, oh, I can see the solution. You do it, and they say solution is wrong, and you're just like, what did I do wrong?
Yep.
Because it's a reflection. It's literally flipped.
Physics, baby.
Yep.
So there's that. Except it's not like horizontally flipped as well. It's only vertically flipped, which is another thing to break your brain just a little bit.
Yeah.
And then they do this again where you can adjust the water level. So you have to do that to get the light to bounce off of the water correctly for that too. And it just keeps building and building and building on this. And all of these things that I've just discussed are all just activated via switches via these maze puzzles.
Yeah.
You don't at any point just press a singular button to do this. There's always a contextual maze switch to do this sort of thing.
Yeah.
So if a maze has multiple exits, look, it might only be a maze with one entrance and 3 exits, and they're very, very basic. But it's contextualized to what the action it is going to perform. Turning on the left light, the middle light, the right light, or turning off the light in general. It is somehow so intuitive, and it doesn't tell you any of this. The only prompt that I got the entire game, there were 2 prompts. One, the very first maze that you walk up to where it tells you to press X.
Yeah, it's like this is how you activate the mazes and begin completing them.
Yes. And on every maze, admittedly, it does have a little ping on the start of the maze so that you know where you're supposed to click to start as well.
Yeah.
And then the only other prompt that I had that visually told me what button to press for something was the L2 to run.
Oh, that's right. I forgot about that one.
Yes.
I'm very glad that I found that, because it makes getting around a little quicker.
Not going to lie, it was the first thing I was trying to find. I'm like, surely there's a run button.
Yeah.
It has to be. And then just after I'd figured it out, the button prompt came up. I'm like, well, it's too late now.
So I've already figured it out.
Yeah. I clearly wanted this before now.
It's quite striking that, there's the single input for mazes. There's literally just move, look around, activate maze, and run as buttons. There's not even music in the game.
No, there's not. Well,
it's
there's
very minimal. There's environmental
chimes
sounds.
and things.
Yeah.
But no music.
Yeah, no typical music, apart from areas where sound is part of the puzzle.
Yes.
But it's a very minimalistic game. And again, I know we're harping on about it, but it's taking a core concept and expanding it. And I think one of the best ways it expands it, and this is one of my favorite parts, and I'm sure many other people felt this way. So So, there's this big mountain in the center of the island. And obviously you're drawn to it, so you get to the top. And then there's a point where you can look down at this river, like a waterfall and a river, and you just think, oh, that vaguely looks like one of these mazes. But like obviously it's environmental. But if you try to complete it like a normal maze, it gives you the chime and says you completed a puzzle.
Yep.
And that's the moment that you realize, holy moly, these mazes aren't just on these boards. These mazes can be clouds, like the rivers, the sun, patterns that you see in geometry.
Yep.
So it kind of changes the game. Instead of looking for these big obvious signposts, squares, this is a puzzle board, you'll be walking around and you'll see puzzles everywhere.
And we don't just mean in the game.
Oh yes.
Did this happen to you? I remember for a good 2 weeks after playing the game, at least back in 2016, I was looking for and seeing these lines everywhere in real life.
Yeah, there's the Tetris effect where people, if they play a lot of Tetris, for whatever reason, you can begin to see the falling blocks in your brain when you're away from the game. It's just this wild thing that happens. But the witness effect is real. Like, I was the exact same, and I've heard of so many other people after playing this game for like a prolonged period of time, they go out to the real world and all they see are mazes and patterns, and they just want to solve everything.
I desperately hope that I am not going to go through this again tomorrow.
Yeah, you might have like reignited it.
Yes. For those that don't know, because we will be releasing this much later, this recording is happening at the beginning of Black Friday week. That is the last thing I need is to be seeing this stuff going on when I go back to work tomorrow.
Yeah, as someone who works in retail, that's maybe not the best.
Oh my gosh, it is the last thing that I want. Anyway, I want to just call it there for a minute, grab a drink, listen to some ads, everyone. And by ads, I mean probably funny vignettes that we come up with, because we're not going to have sponsors in the second episode. So we'll be back shortly. Okie dokie. So we have had some technical issues.
We made it to the second episode before that, so that's pretty good.
Yeah. The first episode only had a slight cat meow and cat zoom, and maybe a couple of slaps of the thigh that made it through to the microphone that we didn't really want there. This one, we managed to record 32 minutes up to the break, and then nothing else.
Unfortunately, but don't worry, you got the bulk of the good stuff in the first half.
Yes. So you'll have already heard it by this point in the recording, but we'll add an addendum slightly later to quickly go over the things that we talked about in the second half. Look, let's be honest, it was mostly just wrapping things up. But wrapping things up is what we need to do now. And what we are going to do to wrap it up is to discuss quickly what we are going to do for next podcast. So last time we hadn't really decided on what the second episode was going to be. We landed on The Witness because it is a game that Shane is intimately familiar with. I have played, but am not as big of a fan as Shane. Definitely
not
haven't
a fanatic.
Yeah,
you like
I haven't
the game, but you're not wild about it like I am.
Yeah, I haven't dived deep into it, like the lore and everything. It. Look, man, like I fully expect you to come back to me telling me it's actually the Lost Island at some point.
Oh yeah, it's actually tied to no, it's
not. But we have decided in advance this time what we are going to be doing for the next recording. Do you want to break it to everyone?
Yeah, we're going to be looking at Pokemon, more precisely, or am I going to get this right? Shining. Something is shining and something is brilliant.
So I am playing Brilliant Diamond. Shane is probably just going to talk about the mechanics of a previous game
as you can tell by me being thoroughly knowledgeable about the titles, that this is definitely Kyle's game more than mine.
So we are going to be talking about Pokemon games in general. Let's be honest, the mechanics haven't changed for 25 years.
Yeah, give or take.
Yeah. They've added little bits here and there, but overall it is largely the same. But the reason why I want to do Pokemon in particular is because it's probably one of the biggest emergences of fan-made rule sets. So what I want to be talking about in particular is Nuzlocke type games. The recent release of Pokemon Brilliant Diamond, which I've already put in like 18 hours of, is a spectacular way for me to reach into this. This will only be my 4th attempt at a Nuzlocke. I've completed 1 successfully out of those 4. I'm halfway through the 3rd, and then Brilliant Diamond came out, so I started on that one. So yeah, we'll see how that goes, because they're not easy, and it's very, very easy to decide you don't want to do it as a Nuzlocke anymore.
So this ain't going to be your mama's Pokemon talk. This is going to be a bit of a different style.
Yes. Yeah, so none of the regular handouts in this one. You have to earn everything. So we will, not see you, I guess, but we will speak to the Void next fortnight, in about 2 weeks. And I guess that's it.
We out.
We out. Peace.